Good morning, guys. Welcome back to the channel. So I wanted to play soldiers because it's been a while. I had a lot of fun with my control soldiers deck maybe about a month and a half ago. It would have been maybe almost 2 patches ago at this point, but you guys are asking for an update and now it just feels like the perfect time, right? In the previous version, I did feel like the caveat that we had may have actually been a bit of the trap, because there are a lot of bronze cards that we want to play, generally speaking, when we're looking at this archetype, and it becomes increasingly difficult to get these cards when we have our top deck sorted. So I felt like, okay, maybe we take this out, maybe we focus on just putting in a tutor, and then we can put in just, you know, a bunch of bronzes in the back end that we could play. And that's pretty much why it was the way it was. Now, there are a couple cards that I'm thinking about substituting in. I might include a second version of the deck for you guys here. This version greeds out Nauzicaa Sergeant, and it does have tons of synergy with pretty much everything we play in the deck, which is deploy, with exception to maybe the pikeman. However, if you're finding that you want more control, by all means, go ahead. I just felt like the previous version didn't have quite enough proactivity, so that's why this kind of makes sense here. However, I think that, you know, a substitute for something like a Joust or even battle preparation, both would be really good options here. Unfortunately, there's not a lot to play with in this end, except for this spot. If I can keep them all, I would, but that's basically how it is. We need the spies because of the Brathens, we need these just because of synergy, and we need the bondeds for the mushy truffle. Like, there's a lot of stuff we just can't change. But either of these I think would be fine. You know me, I like my damage more than I like my boost, but I think battle prep, if it's going to see play, it's going to have the best value in this deck compared to any other deck that you could possibly put this card in. So definitely something to look at. But we'll get into the deck list here. So we have Oneiromancy, which is an echo card, and it allows us to play any card from our deck, so we could pull into pretty much anything, right? Well, actually anything, you know, including specials and locations and stuff like that. So we're able to do it twice. It's going to make sure that we're not missing any of our gold cards, which is very important. Now, this alongside the other thinning package with the Blightmakers and the ability to take the Athen out with our leader is going to play very smoothly. So we should be able to get all of our gold cards pretty much every single game, and we'll know exactly how it's going to be funneling out. But I don't feel like it's at the point where there's too much consistency that we're wasting provisions. So any more tutors or thinning in addition to what we have here, it's kind of a slippery slope. I think this is the sweet spot for it. So again, that's kind of why I have it here. There is maybe consideration to go and put in a decree and buff something else up, but for what it's worth, I kind of just like it the way it is, and it really helps us get some of the other specials we need, right? Because we have more top-end specials that we want to pull than top-end units, so that's pretty much why I think Oneiromancy is more important in this instance. Now, previous versions didn't have Brathens, but I've been playing a lot of Brathens lately, and I think it's one of those cards that you just want to have in most Nilfgaard decks because it's so versatile, right? We have the Assimilate that's going to be proccing from some of the cards that we're playing. We have the proactivity from playing things like an Emissary, right? We have a little bit more synergy with the Informants and just getting some stuff set up. Maybe play some synergy with those in what we get from the Illusionists, right? There's more opportunity to proc deploys when we do all this stuff. So I like the Brathens here. I think it makes a lot of sense. We're not going full-blown Assimilate, but we just have the sweet spot. And, you know, not too much. My previous version today had, instead of Swears, Artorias, but I felt like Swears ultimately ended up just being more consistent because Artorias pulls into too big of a pool, right? I think with this deck specifically, there are too many bronze cards that you want to include that it just puts Vigo in a place where I'm not as comfortable playing him. So even if he's an Assimilate, it just didn't seem worth it. Now, Heatwave, you guys know I love Heatwave. Banishing unit or artifacts, so pretty simple. You see something you don't like, you want to get rid of it. No matter what it is, you have one shot, one opportunity, you know? Capture it or let it slip, right? So we take care of what we need to do, and that's that. Now, Vigo's Muzzle. Lock an enemy unit with 6 or less power and seize it. I felt like being pretty nasty with this one here. So we have Spheres that's going to be seizing a unit with 3 or less power. We have this, it's going to be locking and seizing a unit. So we're just taking things right, left, and center from them. And it just seems like a lot of fun. Like, literally, Muzzle's one of my favorite cards, like, for control. And when it got the buff, I'm just looking for whatever reason I can to play it. So it's here for that reason. Moshi Truffle, great card, very flexible. I like to use this as carryover when possible, so playing it on a dry pass round 2 is really good, or playing it on round 1 if we want to push into round 2 is really good as well. You know, there's no really wrong way to play it, even round 3 is just fine. And we have a couple bonded units that it'll play. More than often, it'll be the biggest payoff to go with something like the Illusionist from the Mushy Truffle, but you might find yourself having to reach for a Pikeman if you already have the board established with these opposed to these. It might be better to go that way, so that's pretty much it. Raymond is one of those cards, or Ramon, I'm not sure how you say that one, but deploy, spawn, and play a base copy of a bronze soldier from your hand and give it 2 armor. So this is going to be making a copy of pretty much anything we need to make a copy of, with exception to Blightmakers. So if we need an extra lock, which is why I only have 1 here, if we need an extra pikeman, if we really want to swarm it, if we need an extra bowman because that's all we have and we want to do a bowman round. Nauzicaa is like a desperate attempt. I try not to pick it because it's a little bit slower. I like kind of the top 3 quite a bit, but more than often the Illusionist plays for the most points because, you know, it's just creating tons of cards, right? So if you're going to play this card, it's definitely going to be in a deck like this, so I'm glad we get some really good value from it, and it doesn't brick like you might see in other decks that use it that aren't as focused on soldiers. And you might be thinking, okay, well, why do we have Heatwave and Muzzle, and now we have Yen? Because I like it. That's pretty much it. I want to have a second Tall Punish here. I don't really consider Muzzle a Tall Punish, so Yen's really good for that. Place an enemy unit at the top of our deck. What really works out well, too, is that we don't have a lot of top-end gold cards if we draw them all, right? Like, the deck isn't very polarized, so if I'm taking something of theirs that's really good, like, let's say we take their Fuchsia, right? I can go find it with the Oneiromancy, or whatever the case may be, right? We can go and pull back that card and play it, so that's where we get a lot of our value. And there is some consideration to go and put something like Vilgefortz in place, because it does something similar of Oneiro. But I just felt like, okay, we kind of want to still draw our cards the way I wanted to draw my cards, so I made the choice to go for this instead of this. However, this is definitely something that you guys can put in if you feel like it, right? Now, moving on to Spheres, of course, you got the big, I was going to say big buff. He does not, it's not a big buff. He got 1 base power buff, so makes it a little bit more playable here. Reminds me of a Toad Prince with a little bit less of a ceiling. So, sees an enemy with 3 or less power. Again, it could be a Flying Redanian, it could be just about anything we ping down with any of our damage, you know, and there's no shortage of ways to get damage. There's going to be a lot of pings going around within the matchup, right? And Vrigif or Vrigif, deploy, trigger the deploy abilities of adjacent bronze soldiers. So again, it really kind of comes down to what we need. Do we need an extra lock? Do we need the extra damage, right? The extra 2 damage. Do we need to spawn something else? Again, you're probably going to get the most points from the Illusionist, right? If we put this in between 2 Illusionists, we get to basically create 2 more units from them. So that's kind of the ideal way to do it, but I don't feel bad if I go and use it on Crossbowman either. I think it's great. And often just, it's one of those cards that I like to put in a deck like this because the leader helps us move a card to the top. This card, when moved to top, summoned to melee row. So it's thinning, it's points, it works with the leader and stuff like that. I like this leader for soldiers because the armor it gives, I think it's valuable because we have a lot of engines we want to keep going. And these ones do depend on barricades, so they need armor. These ones are vulnerable, so they need armor. These ones are vulnerable as well, so they need armor. You kind of see the trend. So leader kind of helps with that quite a bit. Talked about the thinning, talked about the lock. Pretty simple with these. Damage a random enemy unit on the melee row by 1. Bonded, damage random enemy unit instead. So basically the more we have, the better we have, because we can damage everything, even if they play on the range row, opposed to just the melee row. So you want to get these out nice and early and try to keep 2 or 3 of them out there, just to get the most value from that there. set up for the Brathens on these two, and the main one I really want to touch on is the Illusionist, because this is going to be like a nice win condition for the deck, surprisingly, for a bronze card. Deploy, spawn a base copy of a bronze unit from your opponent's graveyard to the right of this card and set its power to 1. Bonded, don't set its power to 1. So, pretty simple, right? We look for an engine or something with an order from their grave, and we go and play it. I don't like to have this in round 1, but I certainly love to have these in round 2 or 3, right? Give them some time to establish their graveyard. Let's say we're playing against Skellige, we can get one of the ships, or a raider. Let's say we're playing against vampires, we can get something with an order there as well, right? Maybe to give bleeding like an Alp. You can imagine how they get pretty good. Little half-roos when we're playing against Skellige. It comes at 1 base power, but it does 4 damage, you know? So, good trades with that altogether. Sets up bonded with those two so that we can go and make copies and, you know, get bonded abilities of theirs on our side of the playing field. So lots of cool stuff. I have more games than I can count today. I'm gonna try and like find the most entertaining ones. I'll be including wins and losses for you guys today, so you can kind of see a fair reference of how the deck performs. The MMR peak for this video was 2465, I think. So there are, you know, I would say pretty good opponents, and it'll probably be accurate to what a lot of you guys will be playing this in pro rank like. So I'm happy with the reference points we have, but obviously there are a couple areas for opportunity. So it's not perfect, but I'm really liking where it is right now, and I think that if any changes are made, like, it's one of those things where I'm looking to see if Nauzicaa is the way, and I'm really keeping track of how I'm drawing to see if we can get away with swapping out the Vilgefortz for the Oneiromancy. But other than that, I'm pretty confident with where the deck is right now. So we'll get into the games, and if you guys enjoy the content that you see, don't forget to sub to the channel. I'm pushing for 6K subs by, let's say, the middle of the month, and I want to get to 6,500 by the end of the month. 2 stretch goals here we can surely make happen. And yeah, guys, if you want to keep up with what we're doing every day, talk about deck lists, watch exclusive streams and all that type of stuff as well, hop in the Discord. The community there is growing as well, and we'd be happy to have more. So that's all my shout outs for now. Alright, so moving on to the first game here, we got Scoia'tael, Deadeye Ambush, and we had to find out quickly if it's traps, right? I'm playing these games earlier on today, and I'm talking about it after. I was doing like a little bit of a screen share stream while I was playing, but I remember these games quite well. You try and tuck back the Illusionists early on as well. There we go, good engines for round 1. And by the way, guys, I did mention in one of my videos earlier that I had a sponsorship opportunity with a company. It's related to games. They're based in California, and I actually just got the contract signed today. So I'm going to be doing the sponsored video on March 14th. Now, it's important that I get good engagement from this video. So if you guys want to help me out and the channel out, just make sure maybe to mark on your calendar for March 14th. That video is super important for you to watch, for me at least. And it kind of decides whether or not I get like a renewal on the deal if we go into a second video or videos down the line. So I want to make a good impression. It's the first time I've ever done something like that for the channel. So when they go out first here with scenario, it tells me that it's probably going to be some kind of trap variant, right? We'll just sort of boost that to keep it alive. But yeah, I'll make a post about that on the Discord as well. I intend on basically taking the money from this type of stuff and putting it right back into the content. There's some things that I was trying to learn how to do that I wanted to maybe just outsource instead because I wasn't so good at it, like making animations and getting some more emotes made and stuff like that, because the ultimate goal is getting back to Twitch, but I want to have everything kind of ready to go. I also want to buy a camera. So yeah, good stuff. Haven't seen that card in a while, so I'm just hovering over it like, really? You know, I don't mind the card. Like, it plays for a good value when they have the row full. It just feels like in the meta right now, there's a lot of cards for 8 provision that might do a bit better. That's kind of annoying. So they will get what they're looking for, you know? The wild part is I'm not like really confident that we'll be able to win the round. However, I do know if we go into like a long round against them, assuming it's traps, there's going to be a big problem here. So you kind of want to respect that a little bit, and well, I kind of want to play that between the two of those two. I'm just pointing it out here. Should have been played between the two so it gets the extra armor. It kind of matters when we're playing into a bit of control. That's what happens when you play soldiers once a month like I do. Sometimes it's really easy just to forget the little things like the passive leader and, you know, things like that. But we'll do alright. Another thing you want to watch out for is over-swarming that melee row, because sometimes I'm so fixated on getting the extra armor from putting it between units that it's hard to respect. Like, let's say if we have illusionists and pikemen and we want to put like a Vrigif and all that type of stuff on the melee row, it gets kind of tricky. I think there's one game today where I missed spawning a unit on my row because I overswarmed. Just pointing that out for you guys. Now, I think we're going to get horn bluffed here. Right? They're sandwiching a trap that isn't springing, so it's kind of obvious. At this point in the round, we want to push it, right? Do the best we can. Blightmaker's probably the most points. I still have leader security if we really need to push ahead. I was thinking Swears wasn't half bad either. I think it's just the Blightmaker, because we want to get that thin out. We want to get points on the board. Maybe we get some good damage here. And I'm looking for a way out, right? We get the 2 extra damage here. Not bad. We have to account for the 8 points that they'll get if we pass off of the horn, right? So that's what makes it very difficult to pass. I don't care if we if we tie or, you know, if I lose a round but I get out at this point, because I don't think their short round game's going to be all that great. It's just conceding early with like 7 cards in hand is kind of bad. Taking leader charges here and stuff is kind of nice to see. At this point I was a little bit confused though, because they got traps, but they also have like actual elf swarms, so, you know, that's where it gets kind of hard to read. I think if we want to actually play this properly, it's probably best to lock the Eisengram. I do think that this deck needs like a lot, like, I think they should take away some of the row conditions for soldiers. There's just like a lot of them that you want to put on the same row, like the pikemans and the cavalries and the Athan, right? And then, yeah. Crossbowmen and everything else can go unranged, but still a lot of stacking. By the way, I think I had 2 more wins and 1 more loss that I didn't include in this video, but I made sure that obviously I got a good balance of both. And the reason why is because I didn't feel like the matchups were very common. The ones here are a little bit more of what you'll see, right? Otherwise, the video would have been about 2 hours. So there we go. We clog them up. They can't do anything. We pass on it. Done, right? Or sorry, they pass on us. We have to go down a card. I remember this. Yeah. So we just played for points because I was thinking about the horn there, right? We're not actually ahead. So that goes and springs, keeps it to 72. That's done. We go 2 cards down, but I feel like it was necessary because they have traps. And we can just try and bleed them around too, if anything. And I don't think we try and 2-0. I think we just try and get the card back. That's basically it. Illusionist is not perfect here. Swears is not perfect either. Just because we want things that are proactive. By the way, guys, if you haven't seen it yet, the limited time leader skin available in the shop right now that you can get with meteor powder, it's going in 3 days. It's 1600 meteorite powder, so if that's something you're trying to plan for, then I would definitely recommend getting started. You know, not a bad muzzle. Just because I think it's going to be hard for them to find the points. I feel like if we take Brathens, we might be able to get them down to 1 card. And I just wanted to go for the control there. I felt like if I can get rid of as many points as possible from them, it might be helpful. While not going super tall. Snowdrop, I guess, is their way to get consistency. They could have, like, the machine gun waylays as well. So, yeah, that's not bad. I think with a card down, we should be pretty good. Because Vernal was like the last little stretch of points, right? Swears is kind of good at this point. I don't think Yen is the play. That's not bad. If I greed Blightmaker, sure. That would be really good. I'm just trying to decide, like... Pull a Mage, it's horrible. That's even better. What's nice too is that we have the armor, so it kind of makes it not really do a whole lot the next turn. So really it comes down to removing the engine, stealing the 3, and I think we should just win with that. And we get the extra damage ping as well when we play Swears. Yeah, that's good. There we go. Pretty satisfying. It wasn't what I thought it was. I was planning for this big traps game and then it just never happened. So next one here we've got it's like a Colgrim deck, right? Tactical decision. So you always want to mulligan back the Afan, and I don't really like Illusionists round 1 because they have to establish their graveyard first. Otherwise we're not playing it for anything except for the 4 points. This leader ability is always a tough read though. You know, it usually takes me like 2 or 3 cards to figure out what they're going to play. But now I've kind of have it narrowed down to 2 options, whether it's the Colgrim or it's going to be the Hyper Thin. Or both. I mean... kind of have to look for a good way to open the round here. We have the ability to bond the pikemen. We've got the 1 crossbowman there as well. So what I'm a little bit worried about here is them just using coated weapons on a pikeman. So that's why I'll have to go for this first, just so that they can't clog it. Also, they get good lock value because there's less armor. I'd probably just take that before it gets out of control. It's the best we're going to get with that. If we don't treat it, then it's hard to kind of compete in the round. But we got to start getting down some other engines here. Yeah, see, I'm thinking, nah, like it's gonna happen. We gotta take care of it here, and then... Not that it gets us ahead on a pass, but it lets us keep the opportunity to get these bonded. And you know what? It's actually like a pretty good matchup if you think about it, for what we have going on. Because we can get around the defender with Heatwaver Yen, and then we can just take the Colgrim with a Heatwaver Yen, right? And let's say we don't draw those cards, we have a third try if we don't use Muzzle earlier, because when we're counterclogging, then it kind of makes for like a bit less effective Colgrim. So now I think we just work on that. It's kind of a big deal.
Everyone has their secrets. Everyone.
So the way I'm looking at it is like the bleeding's pretty slow. So we want to get more bleeding out there quickly. I also want to clog a bit more before the round's over as well. But ultimately we want to get those pikemen bonded. But it is kind of nice to save the option because it's so flexible, right? it plays really well with the illusionists too, so just making sure of it is sometimes kind of the big deal here. Now we're just getting the 2 damage per turn, and they've got the bleeding on the back row, so they have to leader here if they don't want Sunset to come out, which is huge for us. I think whoever I was talking to, I was just basically talking about these, and I wish how they had the soldier tag, because imagine being able to Vragif on these and then put bleeding and give 2 more clogs. It would be disgusting, but then it would probably actually make Colgrim so good. So never mind. Let's go take that. That's actually kind of a big deal, right? We're down about 20 points. Well, 20 points even. They have the 2 engines working. We have 1. It's kind of the pass, right? The good part is that we aren't really that clogged. We have some great cards in hand. We still have our leader. So I'm still feeling pretty good about the match at this point. Except the top decking into garbage, right? I think if anything, we try and clog them more. We have to keep that card. The other ones we can't really play because we have more cards in our deck. And so I don't really respect the Viper Witcher as much, because I feel like OP, there you go. I feel like if we stick to our strategy in round 3, we might do better. They haven't done like a really good clog. And obviously we tucked that one back. The hand kind of sucks. So we missed all the Blightmakers this game, and it kind of gives me a bit more confidence about playing the Oneiromancy, because imagine we missed the Blightmakers and Oneiro, we just pulled nothing. So we'll go ahead and take this now. I want to boost up the Nauzicaa so we can keep them nice and safe. And they're just going to get ridiculous value in this game. Like, unbelievable value. Wasn't really worried about 5-point removal at this point, or any sort of damage, so I just put the crossbowmen there to split up the rows a little bit. That's fine. I want to take care of the defender soon, just in case they make a copy of it, but I also want to get the engines out, so it's one of those things that I decided to do it this way for that reason. And what we can do is we can go into the deck here, take the Ramon, and bring it out for the illusionists and get those bonded. I figure better now than losing that opportunity. That's a huge sunset.
History shall remember the Archetype.
So I kind of regret putting the first Nauzicaa on the left side at this point, on the front row, because I'm looking at the real estate here, and if we put down the other illusionist melee, and then we put down the Vrag, if we're going to be spawning 2 more cards, so that's going to be 3 more cards. And then that fills it, right? So you look here, we've got 7 out there, so we're not getting 1. Whereas if I put the Nauzicaa on the range row, we wouldn't have that problem. So I'm just pointing that out for you guys. You got to be careful about these things. Because it's easy to forget about Afen as well. But I look at it like, you know, at least it doesn't matter too much right now. Because we have a pretty comfortable lead. We've got 1, 2, 3, 7 engines.
Damn you all. Why would I kill a child?
And yeah, we just take that here. It's just really tough to compete with.
Monsters. No, a goat will suffice for now.
There we go.
Crush those vermin.
Moving on to the second one, or third one here. Jeez, we're going through it quick today. You got Northern Realms inspired Zeal, and I'm pretty sure that this one's going to be the siege one. Oh, by the way, guys, I went to... They just converted it to GameStop here in Canada, but it was called EB Games. It was called Electronic Boutique, and then it was called EB Games, and then they made it into EBX, I think, and then now it's GameStop. But anyways, I went to GameStop and picked up a couple Switch games. Some of the ones you guys mentioned in the comments weren't in the store. The selection was kind of limited to like 1 or 2 little shelves, believe it or not, and a couple end caps with new releases, but that's pretty much it. Most of the stores like Xbox, PlayStation, and like clothes and coffee cups. But I got Zelda Breath of the Wild, because I haven't played it, believe it or not, and everyone's saying the same thing, get that game, and that was one of the ones they had. And funny story is that they actually acquired, like he said, they acquired a bunch of games from like some other third party, like they bought them or something like that, and they had the shipment marked as pre-played, but the games all came brand new in shrink wrap. So basically I got a brand new copy for like $20 less, or 25 less than retail, and all they had to do was open it and put a sticker on it that said it was used. So kind of funny. But anyways, I got that game, and I got the new Pokemon game, just because like that was like the first card game I ever played or like collected, you know what I mean? I still have tons of those cards. Kind of got me into the whole thing, so you got to respect the roots. And I heard it's going to be like a truly open world, and I saw like a couple minutes of gameplay, like you climb trees and stuff, and I don't remember that being a thing in the old ones at all, so kind of stoked. I don't know if I'm going to be playing like Zelda or anything like that on streamer content, because I kind of started it already, but the other one's up for grabs. There we go. And like sometimes it's refreshing to play something besides a card game and something besides a shooter, so that's why I picked up the Switch. So typical Siege stuff, typical Nilfgaard stuff, which is why I'm just talking over it. We're taking thinning, they're taking thinning, and their thinning has more tempo than ours, believe it or not, which is wild. I'm kind of deciding at this point if I even want to play 2L instead of round, so I'm just sort of chucking down cards. Things I won't miss too much. Like, it's pretty hard to compete at this point. We've got a huge deficit, 23 points, but it's might be possible to do in 2. We have to look at it here. It would require like some pretty good cards. I don't mind playing the Ramon, but knowing Siege, I know they like to bleed and go for that 2-0 steamroll. So it feels better to me that we just try and save some of these golds to defend the bleed. Especially because we got the first amphibious out, so in round 2, if they try to just take the second one, then we have maybe a little bit of an advantage for later, right? And Rafford's is kind of good here. Because we like to play a lot of bronze engines. So, I actually have to check what day it is. Give me a sec here. It's Friday. Okay. It's Friday, 12:39 a.m. But anyways, I'm thinking about getting back into the Pro series that I was starting. The one where I go from rank 30 to Pro, and I show you guys the whole experience. Because I took some good time off. It would have been maybe about a month almost. And I know that if we continue to take time off, it's really gonna sort of delay that whole process. And I know some of you guys like it, so I'm thinking about, for the next video, getting back into that, doing more of like a let's play, just kind of hanging out. I've done a lot of different decks this month, and I'm just kind of really excited for balance changes and some new ideas to come out, because you know, there's still stuff to play, but it's always fun on patch day. Now, in round 2, I took Muzzle, by the way, because I felt like we wanted to sort of defend that, you know, push, and maybe convince them not to do it. Proactivity's tough. It's a bit better in this version than the previous version I made. And I kind of want to protect it from a duel, right? That's why I'm giving it the 2 buffs. They go take Siege. So, the biggest L of the week happens right now. Yep. Yep, I just wanted to quit after that. I'm thinking about taking that, but really it's a heat wave. Yeah, I'm so cheesed. But, you know, these things happen. Honestly, all it had to do was just one more leader charge and we would have not had that problem. But to my defense, out of all the cards in the deck, it just had to be that one, right? This is probably the best Swears that we're ever going to get. It has a shield and everything. Now we just gotta start laying down some engines. And what's nice about the Raffords too is we got mages and soldiers. Like, it's kind of busted. Look at the damage. You see? Synergy. There we go. Using this here kind of tells them that we have a brick, but then again, they might just think we don't have Affin. I suppose that's fine. See, I don't mind crossbowmen. I don't mind the pikemen. but I just want to get rid of their engine on the back row, so just kind of was taking a look here at what's going on. I think at this point they realized that they don't have the reach that they were hoping, because we really stopped at everything. Like, we got rid of so much potential, so many engines on their side of the playing field, the scenario and all that, so at this point they just quit. But I think even with the AFN in hand, we were just pretty good. Like, our board state was really comfortable. And look at all the engines in our hand. You can kind of see, you know, we've got the pikeman, the crossbowman, the Vreem, the illusionist. Like, there's just a lot of stuff that would make us win the game either way. Tell me, guys, how many times does that happen to you a day? Just, let's start a movement. Let's just hit forfeit instead of closing the entire game. So, like I mentioned, the illusionists tend to want to go back early on. I don't mind putting Vreemed back early on either, because it means that, you know, we don't have to commit a gold early, right? You can just keep it, but it is versatile because you can just do it with basically everything in the deck almost. So I don't mind. We don't want to overvalue that card at the end of the day either. It's 8 provisions.
Momentum, a function of mass and velocity. I'm an officer and a gentleman.
So this one's going to be the mage version, obviously. You see this is the first card it's played.
Wager I can cast from with me foot.
We gotta respect the engines. Normally you might think, okay, let's go down Blightmaker first. But with the Nauzicaa benefiting from every deploy effect, it would make more sense to play the Nauzicaa first. And I think there's only like 2. With exception to special cards, I'm pretty sure there's only like 2 cards in the deck that don't have a deploy, right? The pikeman. Like, I would look at Nauzicaa in this deck right now, kind of like like one of their students without the carryover. Oh, that's kind of bad. So they don't respect it. They could have just wrong-rolled that on purpose and killed the Nauzicaa, but I'm fine with them not doing that either. I'm looking at possibly taking Muzzle on the 6, right? Because it has Veil. We can't lock it. If I steal it, we also get the damage that it has. Kind of a nice snag. That's out of reach at this point. It almost just might be worth a Heat Wave instead. But we'll see.
Folks say we live like princesses. If only they knew.
Yeah, we just take that. Brings us right back in the race here. We've got a couple lock options too, right? The Vrygif basically could create a second lock with the deployability trigger of the cavalry, so you kind of see the idea here. Well, we can even just kill one, lock the other. It's probably the safer bet before they go and try and duel out the 6 or something. Twos and ones, counters are pretty good. I'm feeling good at this point in the game. Like, we haven't really gotten their counters up too high, you know? We're still pushing with the round. Like, we're not out of it yet. You'd be surprised. We're just a blight maker away from round win, basically.
The realm of the living severs your chain. Abandon
That's
now
kind of
your
annoying.
stain.
Kind of expected though. Like there's the Purify. They're not going to run a second Peller, so if we can lock it again here, we still have that good reach.
You will pay for this. You all will.
Make sure it's left to right, so we'll use the damage here first, and then we'll just put it on another engine, then we'll lock that. Our pings are taking away from a good heat wave though. The random ones off the bowman. So yeah, look at this, right?
A fine vehicle.
This goes there, and then we have leader charges to subsidize if we need it, but we don't need it. And clean round win, right? So with the lack of patience established from them in round 1, with the pretty good hand that I have in round 2, I'm just thinking about pushing it. A little slow. That's actually a bit better, right? We can go into the Ramon, into an illusionist, make another, take a Brathen's copy. You see what I mean? Like, we're doing really well. Like, this is like a winning hand, basically. So it doesn't actually matter which one we copy. If it was a remedy, it would matter. But if it did matter, that would be kind of busted. So I'm stacking row here a little bit because I want to obviously get a bit more armor, but at the same time have some units lined up for the froth, right? You can't tell me this doesn't look good so far. We don't get the bond we're looking for because they just seem to have the answers to everything. Fine. I just figure they've used boiling, but we kind of want to keep those safe so we can use them for longer.
We've no room for renegades. We've no tolerance.
And I have the best move already. Like, we can go and take Brathen's into the illusionist, into another one.
True love could lift the curse, but who would love such a fool?
Everyone has their secrets.
Now, obviously looking back at the game, there is one play where maybe saving Froth for a little bit longer would have been nice until we played Brathen's, because that point actually kind of matters. But at the end of the day, it's hard to anticipate these things when you're playing it live. I'm just kind of thinking about it when I'm looking back. But, I mean, so far it looks like we're in a solid spot, right?
Defeat them with hunger. Crush them with thirst.
And we got to use this one before they kill it. It'll be very easy for them to kill it. So I'm just going to go ahead and take it there. Keep that one in the 6. Like,
I studied my whole life through. Yeah, here I am taking pictures.
so I feel like it's an all-in thing. And the reason why I take the Istrid here is because 6 base power plus the boost 2, right? So it should be worth the most, I would say, at this point in the game. And I want to take one last turn because I'm very confident that they're not going to use the orders right now. Because they probably think I'm not going to go all in. duel's kind of bad. I would imagine that takes care of one of the students, yeah? They could have hit the 6. But I guess maybe the patience... Actually, the patience counter was probably higher than the other one, yeah. That's what it was. We got to use these now. It's the last turn, and we take a heat wave, and that's 7. So it looks like a win, right? And this is what drives me nuts. I'm looking at this like actually pretty excited. Like, as if you have to pull that.
Pass and forget. Not I.
Again, we're still sitting at a huge advantage here. So tell me how this 4 provision card they just played allows them to play this card, and this card at 6 provisions plays for like 20 points. Yeah. So that basically puts them up by 1. If we were somehow able to save a point, we would have won the game. But now we have to see who top decks better. And it kind of worries me because we're going into a round where now they probably draw like their alumni and stuff. Their decks stand out really nice. And then we have this. I had this idea where I was going to maybe look for using like one of the pikemen and then trying to go for like a Swears, but we didn't pull it. And I don't know if it really would have mattered. When I see this come down here, I just know the game's over because that's pretty much all the points that we have in our deck. I was thinking about playing it out, but you know, I'm human. It's the closest I'll come to a rage. There you go. It's just not worth it. The deck's really strong. And we'll go on to the last game of the day here. We've got Scoia'tael Guerilla Tactics. We go first. When I see GT, I think of Saskia. So we like our random damage pings here. We get the Blightmaker. We've got Crossbowman. We're going to get really good value from our muzzle in this matchup, I would imagine, and also our spying. Like, our duplicates are really good because we have access to things like Catwitcher. But that's just kind of going off of what I'm thinking from the start of the game. The issue here is that without like a Nauzicaa in hand, I'm kind of regretting this because I don't have any proactivity. Like, we're wasting points. So it's either we play Crossbowman or we play the other form, but I think it's probably better we play Crossbowman first, just because then we can start getting that engine online. Yeah. So many pings. Okay, we're getting close, right? That's 1. What I kind of like, though, is when people play against soldiers, they tend to play in range row to avoid the pikemen early on until they're bonded. So when we take a Swears, because we have a thing like a lot of things that are roll locked to melee, the Swears will often go for something that they have unranged, right? So then this allows us to split up our rows a little bit better with that. So I should have probably taken muzzle here. But I don't think I did. I don't think it's that important. Like, I'm pretty fixated on getting rid of this Saskia, right? So that's why I'm thinking, okay, do we get rid of that just so we can get it? Yeah, there we go. 1 point. We'll just boost something up, keep it safe. We got the 3 engines going. I'm feeling pretty good at this point. All we got to do is get 1 ping off that. And we've got 3 cards, so I think it's guaranteed. Like, I'm feeling really good about that, especially with the Blightmaker. We even have like the Vragif here, right? Which might even be the play now because there's 4 units on their side of the board. So if we take this, all we got to do is take that 1 ping on the back card, and you're about to see the worst luck of 2022. Yeah. Whoops. It's kind of scary though because this thing keeps ticking, and if we and they're gonna keep trying to put units on the board because they want to get lucky off these pings. So we really only have 1 more try. Because like we do have Swears, yes, but it's like Blightmaker first, and we have to find a Swears target because I don't really want to just play Swears for points. That's kind of bad. The Swears here is kind of good.
No good wine will come from here.
You know,
Even compost.
I manifested that. What I should have done was I probably should have taken Madoc here first and taken Blightmaker second to that. But I was trying to decide if you know, if I wanted to have some extra padding of points for security. But yeah, going back, I mean, that's probably something I would have done. Just because we also run the risk of hitting the Madoc. But then again, it's not like they just run 1 bomb, so we'll click it here so they can't muzzle it back or do something crazy. And now I'm good with the pass. Like, I think we've done what we need to do in this round. We have a pretty good point gap as well. We didn't commit too much. I think everything we spent was worth it. Just like really good core bronzes, right? Yeah, that's like too slow. And they played 1 bountiful, so I know Simlast won't even be double bountiful if we pass on it. Yeah. Again, slow play. Like, what I think they should have done on that turn, though, is they could have gotten it with Mushy Truffle. But it looks like they forgot to click it. So when they didn't click Mushy Truffle, I'm starting to think, okay, it's Alzer, right? That's basically why they want to have it, to make sure that like an Alzer works. To get the orbs going. So maybe they don't care going like 2 cards down because the tempo is just so nuts. And I know this wasn't just a mistake because it looks like they're taking the time to do the math. You see that? They just got it like exactly where they wanted it almost. And we should be able to like defend the bleed pretty well as well, right? It's kind of annoying. We have to make a choice here. We could take maybe Truffle for carryover. Oh, by the way, guys, since recording these games, I played another game or two, and there was one where I muzzled a Crow Mother, and then played the alchemy off the location, and it felt great. So we brought it back as carryover. You do some pretty cool stuff. Yeah, so I'm thinking this keeps us ahead. I just want to like stay as ahead as possible because, you know, if I can maintain like a 2-card advantage, it's huge. Maybe we just take the muzzle on that. That's too important. Like the adrenaline on it, even if it's every other turn. They can just use leader to bring it back and stuff. It's kind of a big deal. I told you guys, I'm not just saying it because I already played the game. It's just that at the time even I had a feeling that there were going to be some Seers in the deck when they wanted to keep that location. So something you want to look out for. And because their Mushy Truffle will expire, but ours has resilience, we can actually even look at maybe possibly playing the Seer from hand that we top deck into. There we go. So 2-card advantage maintained. I'm pretty much ready for whatever they have. 2 cards plus Truffle. We have leader as well. Our leader's actually worth more points here. And they also lost the Maddock carryover, so they're in a bad spot. Seer is pretty good, so I was thinking about it, but I think it's probably better than the Informant here. We definitely don't want to break Afen again. And that'll pretty much do it for today, guys. Appreciate you coming out if you stuck around to the end of the video. And like I mentioned, I'll be getting back into the Become Pro series very shortly. Tons of great stuff coming out. Make sure to stay tuned on March 14th for my sponsored video on YouTube. And yeah, just look out for more content every single day at 8 AM Eastern Daylight Time.